It's hard to believe that we first visited the Sinnoh region 15 years ago in Pokémon Diamond and Pearl on the Nintendo DS. And now we get to return to the region once again in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which remake and update the original experience for Nintendo Switch. And while these absolutely take a more modern Pokémon approach, they're still surprisingly faithful on the whole. So, after years of waiting for these Gen 4 remakes, do Pokémon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl live up to the originals? And even if so, do they hold up to this day? True to the originals, the game wastes no time in getting started. After making my character and naming my rival, I was off to choose my starter Pokémon, and beginning my adventure. It felt lightning fast compared to the more recent generations of Pokémon games, and even though I usually enjoy going through the plot of Pokémon titles, it felt refreshing to get right into the game without having to wade through seas of text and tutorials. The new art style jumped out at me right away, as the graphics have all been completely remade from the ground up. The Overworld adopts a cute chibi art style featuring squat characters that call back to the 2D sprites of the original titles. When kept to the bird's eye view, it looks great and is really a fantastic translation of the original 2D sprite work into 3D, though it can look a bit awkward during cutscenes or odd camera angles, which just aren't flattering for the chibi-style characters. It's an overall cute approach that not only captures the nostalgic look of the original, but also updates everything in a faithful, yet interesting new way. Battles, on the other hand, look a bit more typical, featuring full-sized 3D models for the Pokémon and trainers alike. The animations and setting are great for the most part, and I enjoyed how the opponent trainers' battle entrance matched the original sprites, but the trainer animations as a whole are pretty stiff, especially when compared to the players' more fluid animations. The music is also nicely updated. Town themes are calming, battle themes are exciting. It's been great to experience each of the remix tracks to hear how similar or changed they are to the originals. One thing that hasn't changed at all is the story. You and your childhood friends still start a journey to become Pokémon trainers and take on the gym challenge. All the while, some sinister evil lurks in the region as Team Galactic starts to steal people's Pokémon and spread talk of creating a new universe. It's certainly less grandiose and exciting compared to the more recent Pokémon titles, but simplicity isn't necessarily a bad thing, and it still works as a faithful classic. Okay, talk of recreating the universe is still pretty grandiose, but it's not as cinematic as later Pokémon games. However, it is a bit disappointing that none of the extra plot from the subsequent Pokémon Platinum is here, which would have provided more background on Team Galactic, as well as diving into the mysterious legendary Pokémon Giratina. But what's here is still certainly enjoyable. I had forgotten just how interesting Team Galactic was as an organization. Of course, Pokémon games are rarely played just for the plot, and thankfully, the gameplay has seen some enhancements. While the overall flow is exactly what Pokémon fans know and love, with you roaming the overworld, battling and catching Pokémon, they've been improved with some quality of life updates and small changes to enhance the overall gameplay experience compared to the original titles. Such as how you now have the freedom to choose between the classic grid-based movement style with the D-pad or freestyle movement with the analog stick, which felt more natural to me personally. Running around the Sinnoh region with full analog freedom just feels special. While the world still has plenty of obstacles to overcome using hidden moves, or HMs, they're no longer required to teach your Pokémon. Instead, the Pokétch has a new HM app, and with a quick press of a button, you can summon a random wild Pokémon to instantly use it. It's a fantastic change to the gameplay, that not only gives players better control over the moves they teach our team of Pokémon without taking up a slot, but also really speeds up the overall gameplay too. It's barely a chore to smash tons of rocks at Rock Smash anymore, and that's a great feeling. Taken all together, the changes made to the overworld make it a lot more fun to run around and explore, without sacrificing the essence of the original experience. Battles have also adopted some changes and improvements based on more recent Pokémon titles. Despite the lack of a second screen like the originals had, the menu and UI layout in battles feel well organized, showing players everything they need without obscuring anything important in battle. Move effectiveness against the opponent is shown, which is handy if you don't memorize your type advantages. It's all very similar to the battle menus of Sword and Shield. Attacks and moves introduced after Gen 4 have also been retroactively added along with Fairy-type Pokémon, which originally didn't appear until Gen 6. While the Pokédex itself is the same as the original Diamond and Pearl, Pokémon that had their types changed to Fairy now reflect that change. It would have been easy to adapt these titles one-to-one with the original Diamond and Pearl, so I'm happy to see one of my favorite types in later generations present here. Come on, Clefairy just wouldn't be right without that Fairy classification. It's even in the name. In what's sure to be a more divisive change, the experience share system is also back, but not in the way it used to be. What used to be an item given to one specific Pokémon to hold now functions more like the recent Pokémon titles, with it being applied to your entire party, and unfortunately, this isn't some item you can get and toggle off, as it's always on from the very start of the game, whether you want it or not. For better or worse, it does make these remakes a tad easier than the originals, mostly by reducing the need to grind, which I appreciated as a more casual player, but it may annoy fans of the classics who prefer the original, more challenging and grindy approach. It's too bad it wasn't made optional to appeal to both types. While the EXP Share definitely makes the game a bit easier, playing through these remakes made me realize just how handholdy the more recent Pokémon games are. Because these aren't. Being left to my own devices to explore and figure out how to progress without constant help is more satisfying, and it's something I've missed from the more recent Pokémon titles. You're not left entirely without help though, since the pause menu does provide some kind of objective. Contests have seen some of the greatest changes, which work very differently and are far faster than the original games. Like before, you can enter your Pokémon in one of 5 categories, but unlike, say, gym battles, winning is basically just bragging rights. But it's still fun. While in the original games these were divided into 3 long segments for a Pokémon to score in, now it's basically just one. Pokémon get points based on the capsule stickers used when coming out of the Pokeballs, the performance in a rhythm game, and when their chosen special move is used during the song. A full round takes a couple of minutes at most, compared to the much longer approach taken in the original games. It turns contests into a fun, quick minigame to play. While I think this makes contests far more digestible than they were before, it also makes them a tad less important. Contests used to feel like a huge part of the game, with NPCs talking about them being as grand and important as the gym challenge itself, and a full round taking more than 5 minutes. Now they take a couple of minutes at most, and are mostly focused on the rhythm game portion, and only really reward you with stickers to decorate your Pokeballs with. One of the more unique elements of the original games was the Grand Underground, which runs beneath the entire Sinnoh region, and offered player connectivity, minigames, and secret bases. And it returns in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, but this time it's received a complete overhaul. No longer is it just a series of mine hallways, but now you'll find Pokemon hideaways too, which are rooms filled with wild Pokemon roaming about, some of which you won't be able to find anywhere else in the Sinnoh region. These hideaways are fun to explore, with each one a mystery until you enter. The wild Pokemon found within scale based on your progress in the game, so they might be pretty helpful to catch, or just battle for the EXP. The mining minigame is back too, and it's just as fun as it was before. Now you can also find special boxes in addition to the gemstones. These boxes contain a special Pokemon statue used to decorate your secret base. Furthermore, it now features online connectivity too, which unfortunately wasn't available during the review period, so we weren't able to test the Grand Underground with other players, but overall, I really like what they did with it this time around. While in the original games it was a fun location to visit with others as a novelty, it now serves a much greater purpose, and is fun to explore in its own right. Sure, it no longer has the Capture the Flag minigame, and the decorations and secret bases are limited exclusively to the Pokemon statues, which are definitely a bummer on both fronts. But the Grand Underground is still fun and helpful, even in single player. While Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl play great in TV mode with any control scheme, handheld mode is still my preferred way to experience the game. Perhaps this is just 20 years of Pokemon nostalgia talking, but playing in handheld mode just feels right, and really makes these feel like the classic games. And hey, you can actually tap and clean the badges in handheld mode, and only in handheld mode. So I think that makes a solid argument right there for handheld being the definitive way to play, no? Jokes aside, the game runs great in all ways to play. TV mode, tabletop, or handheld. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are fantastic games, but not significantly more than the original titles. While it's great to have these games remade here on the Switch, and accessible to a whole new generation of Pokemon fans, if you're looking for a new take on Gen 4, you might be disappointed. These are extremely faithful remakes, with some quality of life updates and small changes that enhance the gameplay, as long as you don't mind the EXP share. And it's just really refreshing to play a more classic-feeling Pokemon after all this time. After 15 years, our return to Sinnoh is pleasantly nostalgic. The world and art style are great, the remixed music is fantastic, and the gameplay is really enjoyable. While the originals were never my top favorite games in the Pokemon series, they were always special to me. Playing through Diamond and Pearl again after all these years has been wonderful, but I can't help but wish these remakes pulled some inspiration from Platinum as well. Extra story beats, puzzle layouts, even little things would have been nice to help mix up the otherwise mostly familiar experience. So some may wind up disappointed that these faithful remakes didn't add anything new to the Sinnoh region, but then again, that's what the upcoming Pokemon Legends Arceus is for. That aside, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are the remakes that I've been hoping we'd get for years, and I liked them a lot. For better or worse, these are the Diamond and Pearl Pokemon fans know and love. but a little bit better. I would have liked them even more if they added platinum content, but the lack of any didn't significantly take away from the experience. Whether you're looking for a nostalgic adventure in the Sinnoh region, or you're exploring it for the first time, these are sure to be a fun experience for any Pokemon fan. With that, thank you all for watching our review of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Make sure to let us know your thoughts down below, and if you liked this video then be sure to subscribe to GameXplain for plenty more on these new Pokemon remakes, plus other things gaming as well. Check out the videos on the right for more content you might be interested in. Until next time, farewell.